So we're delighted to be joined by Adam Cook, who's the UK Property Director for National Express UK.
Thank you, John. Pleasure to be here.
National Express Group are the biggest bus operator in the West Midlands and one of the largest in the UK. They're responsible for running over 1,700 buses from 9 depots in and around Birmingham, Coventry and the West Midlands. LCMB have had the pleasure of partnering with Adam and the National Express team to support them on their journey with the development of a new depot at Perry Bar and the client-side management of construction works to support the transition to a zero-emission vehicle fleet across several depots in the portfolio. So Adam, would you mind kicking us off with some background around the vision that National Express have had to transition to a zero-emission vehicle fleet? How the decision was made, what the objectives were, and how this project came about?
Thanks, John. Great question, yeah. So public transport has a massive part to play in responding to the climate crisis. Every bus or coach takes many cars off the road, reducing pollution and improving traffic conditions. We continually invest in new vehicles and new technology to try and ensure our fleet is the most modern and most efficient. And the transition to a zero-emission fleet is the next step in that evolution. With such a large fleet, our procurement and operational teams have worked really closely together to develop a delivery plan that aligns both supply and operational demand, focusing the fleet replacement programme to deliver new zero-emissions vehicles where they'll achieve the biggest impact. This particular infrastructure project came about as a result of our partnership with Zenobia Energy to deliver the growth in zero-emission vehicles. And whilst the biggest part to play in that transition is the investment in the vehicles themselves, their successful introduction is only possible with the transformation of our depots, many of which are very old. So the installation of the infrastructure and management of the works in a safe and compliant manner, whilst keeping the depot operational at all times and without impact to the service delivery, were fundamental delivery points for this project. When we look at Perry Bar, the relocation of the Perry Bar depot was required as part of the Commonwealth Games Development and Legacy Regeneration Programme. And it was really important that we took the opportunity to ensure that this new depot provided as much future-proofing as possible. That included the passive infrastructure, the underground ductwork, and a depot configuration that would support the introduction of zero-emission fleet when the time came. So, yeah, this project really came about as a combination of the design and development of the Perry Bar depot and the need to manage as tightly as possible in a compliant manner the infrastructure works at the other depots.
So listening to that, Adam, it's fair to say the project is both complex and ambitious. I guess as well as the enormous task of transitioning to a zero-emission fleet, you're also faced with challenge of an ageing building stock, building capacity constraints and the requirement to relocate the existing Perry Bar bus depot as part of the Commonwealth Games. So with all of that, where did you start?
That's, again, a really good question. Where did we start? Well, with Perry Bar, the starting point was actually engaging with our key stakeholders and looking at not just how do we do what we do now, but how do we think we're going to do it in the future with a completely new fleet? So it was pretty evident that in the early days, a different approach would be needed to define the scope of this delivery project. We needed specialist help defining the requirements, but then also the ability to develop the new depot and manage the design, construction and fit-out works. So from the early days, we had a real active involvement with all of the key stakeholders, so engineering, operations, the driver workforce teams, and understanding how we actually think that depot is going to work. The partnership really came about because we value communication and collaboration so highly when we're developing these projects. And because it was a different approach, we really needed to make sure that we had that end-to-end engagement.
Of course, LCMB, our team, were delighted to be appointed to assist National Express, I guess in sort of defining, working with your stakeholders, the initial requirements of the depot and then managing the construction and the fit-out. And supporting the team in transforming the working practice and driving efficiencies. So how important was it to you, Adam, and National Express that your specialist partner was able to help in all these areas from concept to completion of the project?
Well, I think it's, as we said just a minute ago, I think it's really important that in a collaborative design development process that communication is the key. So for us, the continuity in management and maintaining the relationship with our key stakeholders throughout was a key success factor. Having worked from the very first outline concept, the relationships with key stakeholders were already quite strong. So it really made sense to continue that relationship right through to the delivery phase. And then look at that again in terms of where we're looking at the infrastructure projects in the other depots, using that knowledge of the business, the understanding of the operation, and some of the key stakeholders were the same. So that gave a real sense of ownership and continuity.
I know it was important to the team that any changes made were future-proofed and that there was real longevity. For example, sustainable features were integral to the design ethos of the new depot. An early decision was made to include additional sustainability measures, such as air source heat pumps, wilderness meadow areas, green roof, solar panels, rainwater harvesting and water recycling for the bush wash system, all included. Would you mind sharing why this was so important to National Express?
Yeah, absolutely, John. And I think the highlight for us is around making sure this depot has a long-term sustainability benefit. So you look at the planning obligations around sustainability, and yeah, obviously they're quite stringent, but for us, we needed to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. So it was critical to us that this building gave us the opportunity to really promote our long-term sustainability vision for National Express and use that to create a blueprint, if you will, for an operational model for other depots. We've got to live what we promote. It's no good singing the environmental benefits of a low emission fleet if we're not demonstrating that in the support facilities as well. So we had the perfect opportunity here to go above and beyond the planning obligations and deliver a building that truly aligned with our sustainability goals.
LCMB are also supporting National Express with the project management and implementation of zero emission infrastructure at Perry Bar, Walsall, Coventry and Yardley Wood depots. What key challenges do you see as the National Express business rolls out and transitions to a zero-emission fleet over the coming years, Adam?
So we're working really hard to improve the efficiency of our buildings, but we've got to carry that into our own activity. And if we want to encourage our customers to switch and ditch, as we call it, so switch to public transport and ditch the private cars, again, we need to demonstrate that by our own behaviours and making sure that our teams are aware of their own individual responsibilities and the difference that small behaviours can make. So really, I think the challenges are twofold. One is around converting our building and helping them adapt to the new technology. And two is the wider part about making sure that all of our teams are aware of the personal contribution that they have around their own behaviours.
I know the approach of that our team took was very much in collaboration with yourself, and you're really keen for our team to collaborate with the whole stakeholders within National Express. So at every stage of the project, from defining the original requirements and scope through to managing procurement and the final negotiation, it was important that communication was clear between all parties and stakeholders in such a complex project. So would you mind sharing with us your perspective on how this actually worked in practice?
Yeah, and I think personally one of the most significant factors is relationship. Collaboration works best, of course, when it aligns with the organisational style. And I've always preferred that approach myself to projects. Ideally, you sign the contract and you don't look at it again, because the relationship should be strong enough that you can work through any issues without becoming contractual. But that only works when communication is so strong. And so for me, communication is the strongest contribution to a collaborative style of project management that we deliver jointly. And the way that LCMB and the team worked so closely with our stakeholders in all of the business areas to understand the business, to improve their understanding of the operational impact of what we do, and use that to inform the design process. So that was a real strength. And I think that it's really important that it's about people, isn't it? People do business with people. And so there's no point in having an open and relaxed style of management if you're then introducing a very kind of rigid style of project management. So yeah, it's about getting the right people in the right place and sharing that style, and I think that worked really well for us.
So I guess we've collaborated on a number of projects over the last 5-6 years, Perry-Barr, and the implementation of the zero emission infrastructure across a number of depots. So from your point of view, have these projects been a success?
Yeah, I think they've been a great success, and I think the fact that we've been able to work collaboratively on a number of different projects with a number of different styles demonstrates the way that we've been able to work together over the years. And I think the LCMB team has grown their understanding of our business. You've looked at a number of different areas, from major construction and development through to some less major, some of the more minor work, some of the adaptations in smaller buildings. And that flexibility and that ability to respond to our changing demands, I think that's worked really well. So yeah, it's been an absolute success, and one that I hope will continue in the future.
Oh, thank you for that. I think our team will be delighted with our response. So Adam, thank you for taking the time to join me today and share your experience. And can I wish yourself and your colleagues at National Express every success in your transition to a zero emission fleet. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Been a pleasure to be here.